What's up, you guys? We're back with some more college football videos here on Beat the Odds College Football Edition for Odds Checker. We got some great games coming up this week. We got some Power 5 championship games. But before we get started into our picks, of course, let's talk about last week and how we did.
Well, Jason, we're still kind of in a race here. I was 3-3 last week. I did get my pick of the week right, so I have clawed back to 7-7 on my picks of the week. Thank you to the Michigan Wolverines, who I never doubted. I am 45-39 on the season. That is 53.5% against the spread. That's solid. That's like pretty much right on the edge of where you typically need to be in the profit zone. So I feel fine about it, but I would certainly like it if we could get that up a couple of percentage points in conference championship season and in bowl season.
I believe I'm currently a half game behind you in that race, tumbling with a 2-3 week to 45-40 on the year. Did hit pick of the week though. Notre Dame coming through against Stanford, so 8-6 there. So I guess that's the number I should tout instead.
Respect. And Caitlin?
Finally redeemed myself.
Yes.
Georgia, thank you. So yeah, I'm excited for this week's stressful Bama game this past week, but we got through it. But I'm excited for the games this week. So let's get started. What do you guys have for us this week? And then, of course, we'll do our pick of the week at the end of this video.
Yeah, absolutely. For me, Michigan and Iowa, I rode with Michigan last week. I'm going to ride with them again in the Big Ten Championship at -10. Cade McNamara has thrown 3 picks all year. Pretty big ball security guy, does not take a ton of sacks. What we know about Iowa is that they really can't play offense of any kind, and the way that they win games is by forcing turnovers and trying to make you into the worst version of yourself. I just don't think Michigan is all that susceptible to that. There may be famous last words there. I don't think it's a good matchup for Iowa. I think that David Ajabo and Aiden Hutchinson, who Jason saw in person last week, and I assume, Jason, they looked very good, are going to have a fun time going after Alex Padilla or Spencer Petras or whichever poor soul is the quarterback for Iowa in this game.
Yeah, late in the second half in Ann Arbor, but several of us were chattering about like how in the world is Iowa or Wisconsin or whichever variation of Iowa has to play this team going to score points. So speaking of Oregon, Utah, give me the under 60. Neither of these teams cares too much about scoring points. Utah just sort of always like goofs its way into like, oh, we ran back a punt. Cool. We'll take those points. But defense running, no big hurry. They know each other's offenses because they just played 2 weeks ago. So yeah, another Utah victory, but probably not quite as large margins this time around.
Yeah, I'm at Utah -2.5 in this game. I think that you can adjust a lot of things in a 2-week period in college football. There's no doubt. I would expect that Oregon will be better prepared. And also, this is a neutral site game in Vegas rather than in Salt Lake City. But you can't adjust getting your ass kicked repeatedly by a team that is bigger and stronger than you. And I'm concerned that Oregon might learn that the hard way in this game. So at less than a field goal, I feel pretty good about the Utes.
Let's go for the complete opposite. Kind of going for the MAC title game where Kent State NIU, the total is 73.5. At least that was the friendliest number I was able to find. And I'm going to take the under, specifically because these teams like to run and neither is Kent State's offense is pretty quick, but regardless, both teams like to run a lot. So explosions, but let's get it in just under that 73.5 mark.
Fair enough. I'm going to take Kent State -3 in the MAC championship game, mainly because if you look at Northern Illinois this year, and God love them, they have been on a kind of magic carpet ride that I could see ending anytime very soon. They are 8-4. They have a -33 point margin. -60 in FBS games where they're 7-4. They win close and they lose blowouts. They have a really, really, really bad defense. So does Kent State, but Kent State's offense, I think, is a little bit more equipped on a neutral field to score a lot of points against that bad defense. So betting against NIU in a game that could be close is probably a bad idea, but I like Kent State -3 on the merits.
Let's go to a slightly bigger game than the MAC championship. Slightly. Give me Georgia -6, the friendly side of a key number against Alabama. The power ratings I trust most have this more like 7 points. And I'm also going to go ahead and factor that Bama just spent its Saturday night in a 4 overtime grudge match trench warfare fest, whereas Georgia got to run wind sprints up and down Atlanta for a few hours early in the afternoon. Georgia's not exactly totally healthy here, but they basically had a bye week while Bama played 2 football games at once. So that the 7 in the power ratings in my head, they're nudging up a point or two. So 6 feels like decent value to me.
In that same SEC championship, I'm going over 50.5. Taking the over in Georgia games is sort of an exercise in how much you can tolerate in your brain, feeling kind of dumb for doing it. But look, like Georgia's given up 17 points in the game this year. They have not played an offense like Alabama. I think that Alabama can get somewhere into the low 20s in this game, even as good as Georgia's defense is. And I also think that Alabama's defense just isn't that good, and I think Georgia's going to score plenty. I think Georgia scores well into the 20s and maybe even into the 30s in this game. So I think that this should be more of a mid-50s total than a just over 50 total. And I think that we get there in this climate-controlled venue. But, you're never going to feel good about it even if your brain tells you it's rational, your heart is going to tell you should be under on every Georgia game, even though the over has hit almost half the time in Georgia games this year.
I think that's often their defense that's doing that, right?
Yes, and also Georgia's defense could score. They could score 7. They could score 14. You have no idea.
Alex, you have the most hope, I think, out of all of us when it comes to the Georgia-Alabama game. But
the Bama scoring.
Yeah.
Well, there's always like a fumble or something like that. Bama could score on accident.
Accident.
Let's go with an even bigger game. All right, let's keep raising the stakes. The Mountain West title game, where your Heisman Trophy winner, Matt Araiza, his San Diego State Aztecs are 4-point favorites, was the friendliest number that I could find available against Utah State, a team that I sort of just looked up like, huh, really? They're here. The Mountain West has been unmonitored, apparently. I had good for them. But 4 points, that's not enough points because San Diego State might not give up 4 points. So there you go.
Nope, you've got that at a better number than me. I found it at -5, but yeah, I think that this is a matchup issue for Utah State because the best player in the game is San Diego State's punter. USU is a great story. Love what Blake Anderson has done there, but I think this should be more of a 2-touchdown spread than a 1-touchdown spread. I cannot figure out a great reason why it isn't, so I'm with you on San Diego State, but at a worse number. So congrats to you.
All right, are we ready for our picks?
I will throw in 2 more before we do picks of the week. Excuse me,
Sure.
Minding my manners. Appalachian State -2.5 against Louisiana in the Sun Belt. I think that App is about 2.5 points better on the merits, and I just sort of wonder how prepared Louisiana is going to be when your coach is spending the week doing 2 jobs and also being the head coach at Florida this week, in addition to Louisiana. Houston and Cincinnati in the AAC. I kind of like the way Jason picked Notre Dame because of the need for Notre Dame to get style points last week against Stanford. I think Cincinnati is win and in for the college football playoff here against Houston, but I would understand if they don't feel comfortable that way. I think that Luke Fickell will keep the foot on the gas, and I think that they will win by 11 points or more, let's say. So riding with the Bearcats there as well. Picks of the week.
All right. Well, Jason kind of already took mine, but I found Georgia -6.5, so I like that too. Kind of like what we already said. Alabama is just, they're not looking good this entire season. I think I've said that multiple times already in all these videos, but especially when they're going up against Georgia, who's a much better team than Auburn, in my opinion, they're going to struggle a lot more than they did on Saturday. And Alabama just could not pull it together until quadruple overtime for the first ever overtime Iron Bowl overtime in history. So I think Alabama is going to struggle a lot. And if Alabama loses this game, I think that they won't make the playoffs. So give me Georgia -6.5.
Well reasoned. Think that's very fair. I'm kind of hoping that Pete Golding trolls you, Caitlin, by having an amazing defensive performance, and you are forced to accept him as your And I think that is a total possibility.
I think we
For
want
me,
Bill O'Brien and Pete Golding embraced and beloved in Tuscaloosa.
absolutely, as they always should be. I'm going to the ACC championship with Pitt and Wake Forest, a game that I'm really, really excited about. I think there could be close to 100 points in this game, but ultimately I am taking my hometown team, the Pitt Panthers, -3. Kind of simple reasoning here. Two really good offenses that more or less should cancel each other out. And Pitt has the much better defense in the game by a wide margin. A field goal is obviously not quite a pick 'em, but it is a small enough margin that I feel pretty good about Pitt's ability to cover it. And, even if it's a push, okay, that would mean I was happy because that would mean Pitt won the ACC for a change. So I feel okay about it, both rationally speaking and as an emotional bet that Pitt is going to go ahead and cover in this game.
It's always smart to double down on what you already feel.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Just live a little bit. Let's stick with the game of the week, of course. San Diego State, Utah State. Give me the under 50.5. I mean, who's going to score 50 points? Utah State's not scoring any. San Diego State hates points. So that's it.
Into it.
All right. Well, that's all that we have for this week. And we'll catch you guys next week. This was Beat the Odds College Football Edition on Odds Checker.